My open marriage agreement worked fine until my partner brought someone to our home. It all started about a year ago when my partner, Amy, and I were having one of our usual late-night discussions about our relationship. We had been together for 5 years, and while we loved each other, the sparks we once had seemed to be fading. Conversations were growing shorter, dates were less frequent, and intimacy had become more of a routine than an exciting experience. At first, we tried to blame our busy lives. Work, responsibilities, stress, we thought it was just a phase. But as time went on, it became clear that something deeper was at play. One night, Amy suggested something that I never saw coming. What if we opened up the relationship? Just a thought. We're not going to fix everything by ignoring our individual desires. At first, I was taken aback. The idea of being in an open marriage seemed risky, but then I thought, why not? Maybe it was just what we needed. A little spice, some new experiences, and maybe it would reignite something we were missing. We talked about it for hours, discussing boundaries, rules, and how we could maintain the trust we'd built. After all, this wouldn't be about replacing each other, but about finding something new while still being deeply committed to one another. We agreed on a few simple rules. No bringing home anyone we were seeing. We would always check in with each other before anything physical happened. And above all, no secrets. We even agreed that we would never let the new experiences take priority over our emotional bond. The first few weeks were exhilarating. Amy went out on a few dates, and I got to know someone who intrigued me. We both had our fun, but we remained connected. We'd sit down every few days, check in with each other, and make sure we were still on the same page. We were enjoying the freedom without losing the core of what made our marriage special. But then, things began to change. At first, everything felt manageable. The new experiences added excitement to our relationship, and we were learning things about each other we never knew. It was like we were getting a second chance to reconnect and explore. But as time passed, there were moments of unease. Amy seemed more distracted, more secretive. Her excitement was still there, but it felt different, like she was enjoying this more than I was. I didn't want to admit it, but I started to feel left behind. I was hesitant to express my concerns. After all, we had agreed to this. It was supposed to be a way to bring us closer, not pull us apart. But I couldn't help but feel that Amy's newfound freedom was somehow drifting us further apart emotionally. I tried to push those feelings aside. We had set rules, and I was sticking to them. Amy was happy, and I didn't want to rock the boat. But inside, I was starting to question whether I could truly handle this. Was I really okay with seeing my partner out with someone else? Or was I just too afraid to admit that maybe the open marriage wasn't the solution to our problems? Then one evening, everything changed. I came home from work to find Amy sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up when I walked in and smiled, but there was something off in her eyes. "Hey, I invited someone over tonight," she said, her voice casual. I froze. The tension hit me instantly. "What do you mean?" I asked, my throat dry. "I met someone recently, and I thought it would be fun to have them over for dinner. I hope that's okay." The blood drained from my face. This wasn't part of our agreement. We had talked about boundaries, and bringing someone into our home was off limits. We had always agreed that our space, the place we shared, would be sacred. I couldn't believe she had gone ahead and invited someone without discussing it with me first. My stomach twisted. I wanted to say something, but I didn't know how to put the words together. The truth was, I was shocked and hurt. I had spent so much time convincing myself that I could handle everything, that our marriage was strong enough to withstand this. But now it felt like Amy had crossed a line. She seemed oblivious to the hurt in my eyes. "I know it's a bit sudden, but I thought you'd be okay with it. It's no big deal." But to me, it was a huge deal. I tried to hold back my emotions, but the words came out before I could stop them. "I don't think this is okay, Amy. We agreed. No bringing anyone into our home. You didn't even talk to me about it. Why didn't you respect that?" Amy shrugged. "I didn't think it would be a problem. We're adults. I thought you'd be fine with it." Her words stung. I felt like I was losing control of something I had worked so hard to keep balanced. That night, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Amy tried to convince me that everything was fine, that I was overreacting, but the more she spoke, the more I felt the weight of my emotions, hurt, betrayal, and confusion, all crashing down on me. I stayed quiet for most of the evening. I couldn't shake the image of Amy and this new person sitting in our living room, talking and laughing, while I was left feeling like an outsider in my own home. The idea of an open marriage had seemed appealing at first. Freedom, exploration, less pressure. But this was something different. It wasn't about enjoying experiences outside of our bond. It was about Amy's needs and desires taking priority over mine. The person Amy had invited was an attractive man, someone who had caught her attention on one of the dating apps we'd both been using. He was charming, confident, and seemed to enjoy the attention he was getting. I couldn't help but feel insecure in that moment. How could I not? He was sitting there in the space that was supposed to be shared only between us, in the space where we had built our life together. Throughout the evening, I kept my distance. I excused myself several times, going to the kitchen or retreating to the bedroom, needing space to process what was happening. Each time Amy would try to coax me back, but I needed to think. This was more than just an issue of physical boundaries. It felt like a crack in the foundation of our marriage, one I wasn't sure how to fix. As the night wore on, I found myself questioning everything. Was I wrong to feel upset? Had I misjudged my own capacity to handle an open marriage? I thought I was comfortable with it, but now I wasn't so sure. Was it selfish to feel like this new arrangement was no longer serving me? Was I trying to cling to an idealized version of our relationship that no longer fit? Around midnight, Amy came into the bedroom, closing the door behind her. She sat down beside me on the bed, looking more serious than I'd seen her all evening. "Look, I didn't mean to upset you," she said softly. "I thought you'd be okay with this. It's not like I'm falling for him or anything." I turned to face her, my emotions bubbling to the surface. "Amy, it's not about him. It's about you not respecting the boundaries we set together. We agreed this space was off limits and you didn't even think to talk to me about it. Why?" Amy looked conflicted. "I didn't think it was a big deal. I just wanted to have a good time. I thought you'd be okay with it." I shook my head. "It's not about being okay with it, it's about trust. It's about you disregarding what we agreed on without even consulting me, and it's about how I feel when I'm left out of the decisions that affect us." Amy's face softened, but I could see the frustration in her eyes. "I'm not trying to make you feel left out. You know how much I love you. This isn't about us. It's just about having new experiences." "But that's the problem, Amy," I replied, my voice cracking slightly. "I thought it was about us. But it feels like I'm just a bystander in my own marriage. It feels like you're not considering my feelings anymore, like I'm just supposed to go along with whatever you want. No questions asked." Amy stared at me, the silence between us growing heavier. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but no words came out. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "I don't want to lose you. I thought this would make us stronger. I didn't mean to hurt you." I wanted to believe her, I really did. But the damage had already been done. The trust I had in the agreement we'd made had been shaken. "I don't know if I can keep doing this," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I can keep pretending that everything is fine when I feel like I'm losing you. Maybe we're not ready for this kind of arrangement. Maybe we need to rethink everything." Amy didn't respond right away. She sat beside me, her face unreadable, as if she, too, was trying to process everything that had just been said. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she spoke. "I don't want to lose you either. I didn't think it would be this complicated. I thought we could handle it." I looked at her, my heart heavy with uncertainty. I didn't know what to say. The truth was, I didn't have the answers. I didn't know if I could handle this open marriage anymore. I didn't know if Amy and I could go back to what we had before, or if this new dynamic was going to tear us apart. The next morning we had breakfast together, but the air between us was thick with tension. I couldn't shake the feeling that things had irrevocably changed, but I wasn't sure how to fix it. We had built a life together, and I didn't want to throw that away. But the situation was no longer as simple as I had imagined. "Do you still want to continue with this open marriage?" I asked, my voice low. Amy looked down at her coffee, avoiding my gaze for a moment. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice quiet. "I didn't think it would cause so much stress. I don't want to lose you, but I also don't want to feel like I'm giving up something that's exciting for me." I took a deep breath. "We need to figure out what's really important. We need to decide what we're both willing to sacrifice and what we're not." Amy nodded. "I agree." But even as she spoke the words, I couldn't. shake the sense that something had already shifted. We weren't just dealing with a simple misunderstanding anymore. The deeper issue was that our open marriage had exposed cracks in our communication, our trust, and the way we viewed our relationship. I couldn't help but wonder if we were trying to fix something that was never broken, or if we had simply outgrown each other. I spent the next few days reflecting on everything, our marriage, the open arrangement, and what I truly wanted moving forward. I spoke with a few close friends about my feelings, trying to understand if I was being unreasonable or if my concerns were valid. They all told me the same thing. I needed to prioritize my own emotional needs and have a deeper conversation with Amy about our future, but even with their advice, I felt uncertain. I wasn't sure if the problem was the open marriage itself, or if it was the way we had communicated and handled our boundaries. Was I too possessive? Was I too insecure? Or was Amy simply not respecting the foundation we had built? After a lot of soul-searching, I decided I needed space to think things through. I asked Amy for some time apart, just a few days to clear my mind. The separation wasn't about ending things. It was about regaining clarity and understanding what I truly needed. I spent the next few days reflecting on everything, considering the possibility of continuing with the open marriage or deciding that it wasn't for me. In the end, I realized that the open marriage wasn't the problem. It was how we had approached it without fully understanding the emotional consequences it would have on both of us. Amy and I eventually sat down and had a heartfelt conversation about our future. We talked about our needs, our desires, and the compromises we were both willing to make. We agreed that we needed stronger communication and clearer boundaries. We also realized that while the open marriage had opened up new experiences, it had also made us realize how much we valued the emotional intimacy we shared. Our conversation was difficult, but it was necessary. In the end, we decided to put the open marriage on pause and focus on rebuilding the emotional connection that had been affected. We both agreed that we weren't ready for the complexities of an open relationship, but that didn't mean our love for each other was gone. As I reflect on everything that happened, I still don't have all the answers, but I've learned that sometimes, even the best of intentions can lead to unexpected outcomes. What matters is how we handle the fallout and whether we can grow together through the challenges. So, my question to you is, did I make a mistake by agreeing to an open marriage, or was it the right choice that just didn't work out as expected? Should we try again? Or is it time for a change? Or should I divorce her?